Hello and welcome to this Jeffrey podcast Tiermaker edition. My name's Gordon. I'm here with my brother John.
Hello.
And we're here to talk through the albums of the White Stripes. We'll be doing the ranking from the podcast we did a year or two ago. In fact, probably more than that. And we'll be categorising the albums into banger, splendid, decent, nout special or clanger. So we'll start straight away with the first album, which is the White Stripes. I felt this one was too long, which didn't really help it. And ultimately, for that reason, I found it a little bit boring. Although, as a positive side, there isn't really any bad tracks on it. So it's kind of like somewhere in between. And I would say it's something like I would give it something like 2.5 out of 5. So I'd be in between the nout special and decent ranking here. What do you think?
I'd probably put it closer to nout special because although I don't think there's a bad track exactly, I don't think there are many good tracks either. I think it's about 43 minutes long, but you have to bash through 17 songs, which are all quite similar because they've only got like the 2 instruments. So I suppose it's quite original in a way, but you just get quite weary of it. It's just not that interesting. So it's not an album I could imagine myself putting on. So I'd probably be more towards nout special, maybe.
We did rank this bottom, so it's not a spoiler to say I do think all the other albums are better. That we didn't disagree on that. So it does make sense if we were putting White Stripes on. This is not one I would be going for.
No, not at all. Not at all.
The second album, Die Still, which I think is a lot better. They seem to learn some of the errors of the first one in the fact that it's shorter, which just makes it tighter, and it's just a little bit better with everything they do. There's a little bit it reminded me a little bit of Led Zeppelin in places, I suppose they are similar, aren't they, in some ways, sort of rootsy rock.
Yeah, I guess so, quite guitar driven as well. So yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, I think it's a lot better, a lot tighter, a bit more varied, a bit more interesting. I don't think it goes above decent, in my opinion. I still think it sort of sits there. So yes, definite improvement, but I'd put it at decent.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I think it's a definite step up. It's much better balanced, better in every way, but there is still some improvement to go. We did rank that 5th out of 6th, so which shows which way we're going.
Yeah, getting slightly better.
Yeah. So then the third album, which is when they're starting to get properly famous and they've dropped the covers. So White Blood Cells that's 2001. And this just, again, for me, it's the same step up. It's just better in every way.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But it is still the White Stripes. That it's not a great shock.
No,
but it is a lot better.
No, but it is a lot better. I mean, Hotel Yorba's a great pop song on there. I think A Smell of Rat, is one of their best ever tracks. To me, this is an album you would actually put on and enjoy. Whereas the first two, you would enjoy songs, but I'm not sure you particularly enjoy the whole album. So to me, this is them really getting into their stride and finding their rhythm and their mojo and getting really good. So I would put this one step up again. Is it splendid? Is that slightly overstating it? It might be, but let's be generous.
Moving up to splendid is perhaps a little bit generous, but we are generous fellas.
We are. I mean, we do genuinely try to respect the fact that these things are not that easy to do. It's not, it's really hard to make a decent album. And at the time, the White Stripes were really quite knocking your socks off because they were genuinely different. And they looked amazing. They sounded, really energetic and something, as I said, so just something quite different about them just sort of blasted you out the way. I think it was pretty good stuff at the time. I don't think it's held up that much. I do think that they're of their time. So I do feel all of this is a little bit dated. So that might be more top end of decent, might be a better place to put that.
You're suggesting we put this down to decent?
So, yeah, it would be above, there. Maybe top end of decent, I think. Yeah, let's do that. Having just said we're generous.
Yeah, we've just then started being less generous. Elephant is next, 2003, and this is when they really exploded in popularity, mainly behind Seven Nation Army. Again, I think we did rank this higher than White Blood Cells, which I would largely agree in, although I do have real trouble with, it's true that we love one another.
Yeah, it's not a great final track, is it?
I've noticed it really affects my overall view of an album. And I've noticed the same with Dire Straits and Making Movies, that I kind of think in my head I don't like the album when I actually do. It's just the horrible last track that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good comparison as well, with sort of Les Boys and we know, what's it called? We Know That You Love One Another.
It's true that we love one another.
I love Jack White. Yeah, it's just rubbish, isn't it? And it's flippant silliness. So yeah, I think it kind of. I don't think I'll dislike it as much as you do. I do agree it spoils the album, but I don't think it's that bad. But anyway, the album for me, I would put this up into Splendid. It is a very listenable album, apart from the last track.
Yeah, I'm trying to ignore the last track and not be swayed by it. And I think if I can do that, then I agree with you.
Well, let's do that, because you can just skip over it.
You can do, yeah. But, you know, I know it's there. It's just ruined it.
Look, just focus on what you can control in life. It'll make you a lot happier person.
Yeah, but like you say, making a decent album's not an easy thing. So to then just stick on some nonsense like that.
Leave it. Just leave it. It's been done. This was 2003. So this is over 2 decades ago. You're going to have to just leave it.
Well, it still feels a little raw for me, that's all.
Focus on what you can control, fella. Just walk away from the album.
Next comes Get Behind Me, Satan from 2005, which we ranked top.
Well, I think it is another step up. I mean, it is much tighter again. Everyone sort of gets a bit tighter. Some great pop tunes like, you know, Blue Orchid. They're now bringing in a bit more instrumentation. You've got piano as well. So, yeah, I just think it's also a little bit shorter as well. But I think it's a really good album by this point. So I think we were right to put it top. Probably it's between that and Elephant, I guess. I think I'd put it in Splendid, though. I don't think I'd go as far as calling it an absolute banger.
I mean, I would agree. I would put it on Splendid. I think it needs to be sat next to Elephant.
Yeah.
They're both actually of a very similar standard. And I think, as we said in the original podcast as well, there's not actually a massive, great difference between any of the albums.
They are quite samey, as you said. They've only got 2 instruments most of the time, although by now they are using piano. Obviously, they use bass as well. So they are getting a little bit more varied. But it's a limited palette from which they paint. And I guess that's why they ran out of steam as well.
I think just generally, the albums through time, you know, the production's a bit better. They just become a bit tighter and it's a bit better balanced.
Yeah.
So they're just generally...
It was very homemade at first, wasn't it?
Quite literally so, as it was made in the house, yeah, with analogue equipment. I think it was Jack's house.
But that idea of making it very at home, very in your house, a bit like the Mountain Goats did in some of their early albums, was almost deliberately sounding lo-fi. They're not doing that anymore. I think it sounds like a lovely idea. Let's just make it on a tape at home. But actually makes a pretty difficult listening experience. Whereas by now, they're not doing that. They are making proper albums quite professionally with tight production.
And I think Jack had been buying up some, you know, quality analogue equipment. He kept everything analogue, not digital. But apart from that, it was proper professional. I think they bought some of the recording equipment from Abbey Road.
Well,
so, you know, it will have been the stuff that possibly that the Beatles were recording on.
If you were a musician, you had the chance, you would buy the stuff from Abbey Road, wouldn't you? I mean,
well, yeah, I would, yeah.
Yeah.
Icky Film from 2007. This continues with the eclecticness and in a way makes it a more interesting album, although it also makes it more varied in terms of there are definitely a couple of duff tracks on here, I would say, but there are definitely a couple of tracks that would be on my best of the White Stripe.
Which we're not going to do.
But yes, they would be in my top 10. So I did like this album, and it's the one I sort of get more excited about listening to. If I was putting one on, I'd be more tempted to put it on, even if actually we ranked this third, didn't we? So you could argue that Get Behind Me, Satan and Elephant are actually a better listen overall.
Well, I think they are a better listen overall. I think by this time the White Stripes had probably kind of run their course, and this was, you know, their last album. And by this point, music had moved to somewhere a bit different. And this album, as you say, is actually quite a lot more eclectic, a lot more different stuff going on, using different instruments. So it is the one that I would put on because it's the most interesting. But it also loses a little bit of that White Stripes magic that they had at their peak. Would you put it bottom of Splendid or top of Decent? I see you've put it top of Decent. I think that's where I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it goes.
Yeah, I think so. Well, let's leave it there. That's our Tiermaker ranking thing of the White Stripes.
Yeah, you can find all the Jeffrey stuff at jeffreymusic.rocks for links to podcasts and articles and whatever else is on there. That'll do.